talk. Another thing that you have to, it says that in Russia too, the history say that anarchists were over there too. No, Trotsky wasn't anarchist. It wasn't anarchist Trotsky. He was
research.
fighting another form of
There were
socialism.
millions of
Another
anarchists
way
in the
to
Russian
reach
Revolution.
socialism. But he wasn't anarchist. That is the history say. Don't mislead. We can go to the library and check it out. He
Yes,
wasn't
let's go.
anarchist.
Let's go do that right now. We can do some research. Let's go do that right now. You want to do next?
Well, I had a question for him. I mean, I agree with most what everyone said as far as anarchism. I'm into it too. But to create a different state right next to a capitalist state, to me, is to running into competition with a capitalist state that already have the means of production and it has everything to protect it, and to continue on waging wars against anyone that opposes it. I think that the state must be taken by the 99% because we already own it. That's our stuff. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to come up with for ideas or how to use the same means of production for the benefit of the 99%. But to create a parallel system to it, I'm gonna believe it when I see it.
Can I respond?
Anthony's the last person that's back to do some response now, and then we'll be done.
Okay, well, I just wanted to ask like a really dumb question to everybody. Like, do you believe in chaos? Like, that's a really dumb question, you know? Like, do you believe in chaos? Or like, do you believe in like violence, you know? And it's like, yes, I believe in those things. Chaos exists because order exists, you know? Like, violence exists because peace exists, you know? Like, there are gradations in like humans and human potential and everything like that, and like I just want to like make it really clear that like we were not born into a system that was like working really well for us, and then like now we're fighting in order to like fight for like that world that we lived in when we were younger. Like, we're not doing that. We're like living within a system that is crumbling itself. Like it's falling to pieces like on its own. And what we're doing is not what the brother over here is thinking that we're doing. We're actually like teaching a lot of people like how to live in such a way that like where there's like mutual respect and like mutual accountability and mutual aid, and people like share things with each other because they want to and not because they're being forced to. And you know, it doesn't, anarchism is not a system of beliefs that like by itself can run like any sort of community, you know. It's just a belief that communities, if left alone for longer than like an hour or two, just develop organically, because that's the way humans develop. They organize communities and they take care of each other and they watch each other's backs. I also just want to say that like anarchism for me, like it does mean chaos, you know. It does mean like certain notions that people like might be uncomfortable with, because like humans are also like very strange creatures. Like, we're also like really gross. Like, if you cut us, like we bleed this weird stuff, and like our mouths look really weird and like contain a lot of bacteria and stuff. Like, chaos exists when we meet each other for the first time. That's like a very like chaotic, like social relationships are a very like chaotic and trying time. Like the world that we live in now is like a society that runs like perpetuating chaos, like perpetuating a state of disorder, so that like there's no like moment for us to like take a breather or take like a break from capitalism, you know. Like, there's no area that is completely liberated from capitalism, you know. Those are worlds that we have to create, because we haven't been given any examples of how those worlds are supposed to look like. So I do just want to like, anarchism like implies like a lot of work by humans to take direct action in their own lives to produce the world that they want to live in, you know. And like it isn't just like this theory that anarchism just happens and people are beautiful like once the state goes away. It means like people have to learn the concepts of like not being sexist, not being racist, you know, like not hitting somebody for no reason, not like, you know, organizing a community against another community. You know, like those sorts of things don't work for the betterment of society. Those things work against it. So
how do you ensure those things to happen?
you just teach, and you have to teach people. You have to teach people about it.
Can you be quick? Because we wanted to close the ad.
So, just quickly, I think there's basically two schools of thought, and I'd kind of argue with you guys about this a bit. But one is we stay here and we battle the state and we try and like eventually, you know, become an anarchist society on a wider level, or we move to somewhere, declare an autonomous zone. I think personally, in conjunction with an indigenous group, and like the Lakota Sioux have done, declared a separate nation within a nation. And we hold that as an autonomous zone, and we build a new society there, and we bring people to us, and the idea will spread from there, and other more autonomous zones will spring up around the country. That way we don't have to battle the state, we don't have to battle the police on a constant level, because we'll become this new society that people will look to. But that requires us going to the country, which a lot of people are against, and because we have these experience of what the 60s communes became. But it doesn't have to be that. We're in 2012. We can rethink it completely. It could actually be urban if we want it to be, and not even too far from here. But I mean, I think the key thing is that we just declare a zone and hold it and exist outside of the current system. Build a new world.
Okay, so Eddie, did you want to read your thinking?
Oh, yeah, okay, so I'm going to read, it's a collected work pertaining to how Elise Recluse felt on voting. It was edited and translated by Emma Goldman, who's another she's an anarchist. It is called Why Anarchists Don't Vote. Everything that can be said about the suffrage may be summed up in a sentence. To vote is to give up your power. To elect a master or many for a long or short time is to resign one's liberty. Call it an absolute monarch, a constitutional king, or a simple MP, the candidate that you raise to the throne, to the seat, or to the easy chair, he will always be your master. They are persons that you put above the law. Since they have the power of making the laws, and because it is their mission to see that they are obeyed, to vote is the fitting of idiots. It is as foolish as believing that men of the same make as ourselves will acquire in a moment, at the ringing of a bell, the knowledge and understanding of everything. Of course it is so. Your elected person will have to legislate on every subject under the moon, how a box of matches should or should not be made, or how to make a war, how to improve the agriculture, or how to best kill a tribe of Arabs or a few Negroes. Probably you believe that their intelligence will grow in proportion to the variety of subjects they have to give their minds to, but history and experiences teaches us otherwise. The possession of power has a maddening influence. Parliaments have always brought unhappiness. In ruling assemblies, in a fatal manner, the will prevails of those below the average, both morally and intellectually. To vote is to prepare for shameful treachery and traitors. Electors do certainly believe in the honesty of the candidates, that this to a certain extent existing while the terror and the heat of the contest remains. But every day has its own tomorrow. As soon as the candidate after likewise do men change. Today your candidate bows humbly before your presence. Tomorrow he will say pish to you. From a cadre of both, he has turned to be a master of yours. How can a worker enrolled by you amongst the ruling class be the same as before, since now he can speak in terms of equality with the oppressors, with other oppressors? Look at the civility of any one of them, written all over his face after paying a call to a captain of industry, or when the king invites him to antechamber of his court. The atmosphere of the house is not for deep breathing. It is corrupt. If you send one of part with your freedom. Don't vote. Instead of entrusting the defense of your interests to others, see to the matter by yourself. Instead of trying to choose advisors that will guide you in future actions, do the things yourself. And do it now. Men and women of goodwill shall not have to look long in vain for the opportunity. To put on others' shoulders the responsibility of one's actions is cowardice. Don't vote. And this was written in 1885.
I also have a short excerpt that I want to read, which relates back to this whole theory and practice versus and like the political ideology that anarchism is often defined as. So it's from The Anarchist Tension by Alfredo Bonanno. He was one of the main theorists of insurrectionary anarchism in Italy in the 40s, 50s, I think. And okay, so what is anarchism? It might seem strange that I should take up such a problem in this situation, as I know for certain that there are many anarchists here, because I know them personally. And if nothing else, anarchists should at least know what anarchism is. Yet, it is necessary to take up the question, what is anarchism, time and time again? Even in a few words, why is that? This does not normally happen in other expressions of life, in other activities or ideas that define themselves with some foundation to be something or other. So anarchists keep asking themselves the same question, what is anarchism? What does it mean to be an anarchist? Why? Because it is not a definition that can be made once and for all, put in a safe and considered a heritage to be tapped little by little. Being an anarchist does not mean one has reached a certainty and said once and for all, there, from now on I hold the truth and as such, at least from the point of view of an idea, I am a privileged person. Anyone who thinks like this is an anarchist in words alone. Instead, the anarchist is someone who really puts themselves in doubt as such, as a person, and asks themselves, what is my life according to what I do and in relation to what I think? What connection do I manage to make each day in everything I do? A way of being an anarchist continually and not come to agreement, make little daily compromises, etc. Anarchism is not a concept that can be locked up in a word like a gravestone. It is not a political theory. It is a way of conceiving life. Life, young or old as we may be, whether we are old people or children, is not something definitive. It is a stake we must play day after day. When we wake up in the morning and put our feet on the ground, we must have a good reason for getting up. If we don't, it makes no difference whether we are anarchists or not. We might as well stay in bed and sleep. And to have a good reason, we must know what we want to do, because for anarchism, for the anarchists, there is no difference between what we do and what we think, but there's a continual reversal of theory into action and action into theory. That is what makes the anarchist unlike someone who has another concept of life and crystallizes his concepts in a political practice, in a political theory. This is what is not normally said to you. This is what you never read in the newspapers. This is what is not written in books. This is what school jealously keeps quiet about, because this is the secret of life. Never ever separate thought from action. The things we know, the things we understand, from the things we do, the things with which we carry out our actions. Here is what distinguishes a politician from an anarchist revolutionary. Not the words, not the concepts, and allow me, in certain aspects, not even the actions, because it is not their extreme, let us say, radical conclusion, an attack that differentiates and characterizes actions. It is not even accuracy in the choice of objective that qualifies them, but it is the way in which the person, the comrade who carries out these actions, succeeds in making them become an expressive moment of their lives, a specific characterization, meaning quality of life, joy, desire, beauty, not the practical realization, not the sullen realization of a deed that is morally an end in itself and enables one to say, I have done something today, far from myself, at the periphery of my existence.
I have a question for this. You said that it's not defined. The same book say anarchism is not defined. No, you cannot define words. You cannot do something contradict itself. We live in this society that every day, have some interaction with us. If that thing is not defined, how we can proceed to acting. The same book that is not defined. Not even anarchy knows what it is. So it's an idea. No, we live in a real world. We dealing with issues, economic issues. Those are the ones that we have to discuss, trying to understand how the system is working, how we can operate better to get the 99% that we get to get it. Because we are a minimum amount of 90%, That is embracing in discussion without any aim, because it's not even defined by the book over there. So we have to go in the problem that we have. That's how we can go and be more effective. Again, the 99, that's what we have to discuss. Not something that is not undefined.
Open this forum for a discussion later, but first, can we do announcements? Anybody have announcements? Video for the group announcements? That's probably
As usual, I'm representing Occupy LA Freedom School. Before I start announcing what's actually on this paper, I'd like to suggest that there's been an awful lot of energy here, a lot of great comments, and that I would love it if some people would come to the Freedom School to propose a class or a presentation or a discussion on this very topic. And maybe even a series of classes. Some of the questions that you were talking about far away or right here, I think these are things that could be opened up and really looked at. So, and there's lots of other things here that would be great. So that's one of the things I'm hoping that people will bring forward. As far as the Freedom School itself goes, tomorrow we have at 11 o'clock we have our committee meeting. 11 to 12:30. By the way, we need more members. Anybody interested, come check us out. At 1 o'clock we're having 1 to 2:30 we're having a class on campaign for universal health care within the United States or within California. And then from 3 o'clock until 4:30 we're going to have a discussion on the Federal Reserve Bank, both a critical look at the Federal Reserve Bank and a critical look at the End the Fed movement. So that's what's tomorrow. And obviously we have flags.
I didn't actually have it. Okay, thank you.
So tomorrow there's going to be a meeting. It's Occupy Los Angeles's men's circle to support smashing patriarchy. It's tomorrow at 7 o'clock. If you would like to participate in deconstructing some of the social conditioning patriarchy that lies in all of us men, come to the meeting, or just tell me and I can give you their address and everything. It's
7 p.m.
really awesome. It's tomorrow 7 p.m. Police department. Also, the OLA Men's Circle Smash Patriarchy is they're going to be in support of the action on the 26th. It's a women's march. Word, it means, I don't know what word means. It's like women organizing
to resist the Fed.
To resist the Fed. It's on the 26th, and the men's circle plans on, supporting them with that.
Any more announcements?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I was going to say something that was exactly what Ed said about doing this again, because I think it's really valuable to have this kind of dialogue, because I think we're going to be organizing, we should be organized first, we'll be organizing other people, and I think, there's not really, I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of, not really a lot of talk about, anarchy, especially as it relates to, other, socialism and communism. I think it'll be a great dialogue. So if anyone will be interested in helping me put together a syllabus, I think that's what you need for the Freedom School. I have a list. Let's sign up. I can pass around. So if you guys are interested, sign up, and then we can get something together. It'll be great. Yeah.
Piggybacking off of what
I just drop together.
women's also meets tomorrow here at 5 o'clock p.m. We usually sit right over in this section. So just so to announce that it's still the same smashing
between 61st and 62nd.
It runs from, I believe, 12 o'clock to about 6, so it's a big afternoon thing. There's going to be like different kinds of workshops. There's going to be like a lot of vendors. So like just books, scenes, maybe music. I think there's going to be a few bands or artists performing. Just a thing to like check out, you know, if you're curious or if you're just already familiar with anarchy anyway. It's just a thing to check out. Maybe meet some new people there. Start some good conversations. Next Saturday, August 18th. Yeah.
Before we go on, I'd like to give our presenters a huge thank you.
Yeah.
We have options. We also, as anarchists, to resolve this like terribly hot weather situation, we autonomously went and got water balloons so we can play with them and cool ourselves off. But we want to do like this political dating thing. It's pretty interesting if you guys have participated. Huh? Oh wait, open mic. Should we do the open mic before or after?
Yeah, so we have a couple. Yeah, I mean, like, basically we have the option between like political speed dating, water balloons, and a discussion to continue the discussion we've been having, but just make it more open.
We like discussing.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to continue discussing, is that anyone really want to do?
Sorry.
You could have a time limit on discussion.
Yeah, do you want to do like another like 15 minutes maybe, and then see where we are? How about that? And then okay.
Do you have a suggestion? I have a question. For the discussion? Okay, so are we okay with doing the discussion now? And then we can skip the political speed dating for next time?
Also, to preface the discussion, can people who have talked a lot just kind of check how often they talk and not try to usurp the conversation with like long-winded kind of monologuing. Just be aware of the influence you have on the space and other people who don't talk as often as you.
Wow. Thank you for bringing that up.
Somebody mentioned at the very beginning or early on in this discussion about libertarianism versus anarchy and some of the sort of differences or something like that. And I'm interested in finding out more about that and also some of the similarities.
Capitalism. Like libertarianism is like anarchism but with capitalism. So it depends on how far your vision of authority goes, in my view, because I see private ownership of means of production and like wages. I see that as just as much of a controlling authority as government. But libertarians would disagree. Libertarians will say that, and libertarians also disagree that there needs to be no government, because I would say there needs to be no government. Libertarians believe in like a minimum government, but government is entrusted to protect private property. And it doesn't need to interfere in whether you're like smoking weed or beating your wife. Or other things, and I think that anarchism attacks capitalism and attacks like bosses basically. It says like bosses don't have a right to employ people and take part of their wealth as part of the profits.
On that, I also believe that when it comes to any group that is in support or advocating for capitalism, they're also advocating, it's safe to say that they're also advocating for poverty, because without capitalism, with capitalism, there is always going to be a poverty. It's always going to be divided by certain classes. And so, what anarchists want to do is smashing capitalism is also smashing, the means of production being controlled by the few. So it's like when you have like these silly ideas of like there's like different schools of thought as far as like anarchism goes, and one would say that maybe libertarianism is like anarcho-capitalism, and like anarcho-capitalism to like other anarchist circles, it's contradictory and it doesn't make much sense because with capitalism there's always going to be like kind of the coercion and like hierarchy and like kind of this imposed authority by way of the state. That's kind of the difference, like libertarians being like more, and then they want a smaller government, and that's still would serve as like be an LPO to like serve these issues or like focus on these issues.
Oppressor.
I also have a question that has to do with the climate crisis, which can now be very tightly linked to capitalism and corporations, and the necessity to end the cycle of growth that is destroying the planet. And is there anything within the anarchist vision that can somehow defend the planet?
Did you have a question to start the discussion, or like, so since we have like questions that are posed, do we want to go question after question? And so can I put you on stack for the next question to start off the discussion? After you respond to.
You might want to do like redirect responses to the question.
Okay, yeah, very good. So direct responses for Tung's question. Go. Yeah.
sorry, I'm reading about the Russian anarchists.
Yeah, you said like one of the options is like, well, we could fight state power, like directly confront it, or we can pull away and move out to the countryside and learn to live more ecologically. And I think like that second option is great. The only thing is even if we do that, that whole the ecological destruction is just going to continue because you still have capitalism, you still have industrial civilization, you still have corporations like Monsanto and Shell Oil and et cetera, wreaking havoc on the earth and on its inhabitants, both human and non-human. And you also have the fact too, that the state doesn't necessarily want people to live in that way. So even if people were to almost massively try to do that, they would have still that state power to check them. Oh, here comes the National Guard with their tanks, or something. So even just pulling away, I don't even think really pulling away is an actual answer. It is a way though, to create an alternative, which I support an alternative way of living. But we can't, at the same time, we can't forget that there's this big juggernaut that's and I'm really conflicted too, with that. It's okay, how do we stop this, and then how do we also live in this way? And that's part of the constant struggle. Same thing with just, even if you don't go as far as trying to say we need to dismantle civilization, just even capitalism, you can see kind of the same thing. But I'm gonna stop here.
Well, we have two other people that are answering Tuck's question, and
I spoke too much.
Yeah, so you said what are and what have anarchists done in terms of the environmental issues, and I agree, yeah, there is this kind of school of thought that it's great. There's many different schools of thought, as far as anarchy goes, even within the green and eco anarchy. But a lot of the times it is abrupting the means of production in some of the factories, either by way of in Canada it's very popular because in America it's also popular for people to actually go in mass and protect the trees that are actually going to be cut down, and it's really affecting the environment in very detrimental ways. And it's been brought to the attention of people who are living in town, it's been brought to the attention of our government and the powers that be, who they feel would have the kind of sympathy that hey, these corporations and these production companies and they're ruining our world. They're taking all the trees down. There's not going to be any room for the animals. It's killing our spot, which was there was a town that was I think in Canada where a lot of the town members, they decided to burn down the factory because it was polluting their town so much. And so there's different sectors. There's the Earth Liberation Front, the Animal Liberation Front, which are kind of anarchist groups that do direct action against these corporations that pollute the earth. So yeah, as far as direct action versus cooperating with the authorities, it's been found a little bit more effective for that community to just take the direct action against it instead of petitioning, and finding because it's been happening for such a long time that these corporations, they become what is the word, benefit corporations, or responsible for, I forget what the term is, but they sort of they seem to just try to put on this kind of friendly facade that when they've been sued for years and years, and they haven't been changing. They're very in a way psychopathic, and they're not not shifting or they're not changing anything for the better. So like, you know, what's the other option is like to, you know, legally see how long it's going to take for them to kind of change their ways, or to just stop completely, or to take direct action against them and stop their means of production.
Those are all cool because those are like individual decisions that anarchists make, but there's also a structural pattern that goes along with anarchism because it's anti-capitalist, and capitalism says that it works off the laws of supply and demand, but it would really rather do away with the limitations of demand, if that makes sense. It's looking for profit. So what happens is you have like planned obsolescence of products where things don't work to the optimum ability that they could, and so you've got like garbage islands that are like just floating around with all this shit that we can't use anymore, and no one ever bothered to make it like usable before profitably because they wanted to sell a product exactly like that 2 months down the line or 2 years down the line. So I think that anarchism really goes along with wanting to produce less at a better quality for the benefit of workers who are making those things. And so that's why you see like a lot of phenomena where a society becomes anarchist, they start to eat less meat because there isn't this capitalist pressure to export meat, to produce meat, to do all this stuff. It's really not like practical, and it's way more practical to have a garden or a farm that grows like a renewable resource. So like I think that capitalism really puts a lot of ecological pressures on that could be released if we weren't operating in like a profitable manner.
Ruby, do you have another question to?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've studied Marxism a bit, and I'm learning about anarchy through, mainly because of the Occupy movement. I'm thinking about it more seriously. But I guess my question is about the state and about the government. The idea of going and having starting an autonomous community, I just don't feel that that's sufficient because, for one, the state's just going to come and get you when they feel like it.
Yeah.
And for another, what about all the other people who don't get taken care of? Like, the reason I'm a communist is because I want everybody to be taken care of. Not just me and my friends and the people who want to start our own community. So I think we have to think. So I'm interested though in trying to think what's a way that we can combine it or have a new system that is not oppressive or too domineering, but at the same time that includes everybody and that gives us power. Like somebody has to, we have to have power to protect our community as a state, as a country, or whatever.
Okay, direct responses would take 3, go.
And I'm sorry, one more, let me just say, the other thing, so the difference between the state and a government. And then the other thing is, Marx said himself that, you know, communism, at the point of communism, there will be no state. Like first you go through socialism and then eventually there would not need to be a state. So I'm just trying to figure out what are the, you know, what's the difference?
Did you finish the question?
I think so. I don't know. Is it clear what the question is?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
This is Chuck. This is Ed.
I'm sorry.
We're both old. We're both white. I know. Okay. Okay. A couple of things I wanted to mention. I'll try to do this quick. And Eddie, I appreciate the comment. I talked to you down much. Give me the this, okay? Okay. No, but I do. One thing I wanted to mention. This gentleman over here very correctly had some concerns about the word communism, about the word Marxism. I would like to say that please please distinguish between, obviously between, what the 1% calls anarchism and what real anarchism is. Please distinguish between what the 1% calls Marxism or socialism or communism and what real communism is. That being said, in terms of this, and I said a little bit of this earlier, in terms of the concern about creating something and then just having the state walk in and do away with it and steal it right back from us. To me, one of the big differences between communism or Marxism and anarchism, and I think, by the way, I think they both have real dangers. I'm not saying that either one is better than the other. In the case of anarchism, you tear down, get rid of the state, and in its place you put you put together a society where people can go ahead and be human beings to one another. The danger there is the people that the 1% are addicted to their stuff, and they're not going to let us take away their heroin without doing everything they can possibly do to get it back again. So the problem is they're not going to want us to do that. The problem with Marxism is, in Marxism, you don't take over the state, you smash the state, but you replace it with something that will protect the society you're trying to build, so they don't come and take it over. But there's also a real, and I think you pointed towards that, there's a real danger there too. If you create a power structure, are you just creating your own oppressors? Are you creating people that are going to come in and oppress you? And so both of these things have real dangers. I think Marx would have argued that this power structure you put in has to be completely horizontal so that nobody has any position of authority. But even still, just the idea of a power structure is dangerous. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. So I've been thinking a lot about like a communist anarchist sort of blend alliance type of thing. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about this like blend of communism and anarchism because there's like this aspect to the Soviet Revolution, the Russian Revolution that I really like, and like all revolutions, I think it was early on when the workers directly took control of the means of production, and then they organized into like decentralized Soviets, and then under that like workers' councils, or maybe those are interchangeable things. But like I would tolerate seeing that spring up if there was no further centralization beyond that. Like that's the problem, was that a bunch of fucking czarist army officers got back in the military with the Red Army and started cruising their way back up, and slowly at the same time you see this hierarchical centralized system build up, and that's what I want to smash and have Washington is a further centralization, but at the same time preserving a government of sorts that you can have access to and remain human in your community. So I guess that's a compromise that I as an anarchist would be willing to make, especially in the early phases. It's something that is responsible, something where it's yeah, I'll go to pray and help this out and help the community. Which I guess would be better called a coordinator, but I like the idea of decentralized communism. I think that's a real point of meeting between communists. We could transcend in a way that we've never really been able to do in history. It's really difficult.
It's also been 4 minutes now.
Yeah, we'll finish.
This is a time check, but
I'll come to
that anarchy promotes self-empowerment instead of depending on the system to be. So I think that's a difference that I can find between communism and anarchy is we don't have to
really, because we have an interconnected global system. The corporations know it. They want us to think nation states. That's fascism, nationalism. Okay? But they understand it's global. So really the conditions didn't exist that Marx talked about, which really, and Lenin talked about, which was advanced industrialism, like the end of imperialism at the point in which like the Roman Empire stuff we're seeing now, where like everything was falling apart. And the choice would either be fascism or world revolution. But it had to start in a place like here now. We are in that place here now. And we can do it any way we want. We can call it whatever we want. We can call it, you know, I think the anarchists, if you notice who's hung in of the core group of Occupy LA, it's been homeless people and people who get what this is all about. And then it's been anarchists and socialists and communists, mostly. Because we get that that's where we have to go, that we do need to have a completely different, you know, way of interacting. And I think it's just a question of when, but I think that we're at the right time. That's what I want to say.
I'll just be very brief, but I mean, one of the main reasons I think the establishment of an autonomous zone is a good idea is you bypass two big problems. Well, bypass one big problem, and the other one is I think this is a house of cards right now, and this society is going to collapse on its own accord. And we'll just pick up the refugees from a failed system. And it's kind of pointless to fight such a monstrous system anyway. We have really no chance against the powers that be right now. And there is a dark side to trying to take that. I mean, like, you know, most anarchists don't want to discuss this, but some pretty nasty things happened during the Spanish Civil War, and most of the ruling class were eliminated. Just to put it politely, most of the ruling class, most of the landowners were eliminated, either through exile or taken out into a field and had a bullet put through the back of their head. And that's how the farms were taken. That's how the farms were collectivized. That's how the businesses were collectivized. It wasn't a nice process, and personally, I don't want to be associated with that. I'd rather wait for this economy to collapse, build a system outside of that, and let people come to us. Let us be the example that they come to, rather than, you know, have to like go through some horrible violent scenario, which I don't want to be a part of particularly.
What about an idea of like chipping away from the inside?
I think that should be as well, like a fifth column within, for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, like, but I completely understand. But I don't want to repeat like a lot of the brutality of the Spanish Revolution. I don't want to stick out like a sore thumb and say like, we're here, we're all in Wyoming, come get us, you know, like that.
I don't mean Wyoming.
That sounds like it just sounds like, you know, collecting when we are in the minority and actually drawing our influence away from the capitalist paradigm and not existing as a little like beep beep beep, like be an anarchist in those like spaces leaves it open for what's the word? Conformization, like just like strengthening into a fascist column much easier and organizing against us. So
can we do both?
What?
Can we do both?
I think we will do both. I think we are doing both. But I would definitely like to see more participation in the like working sectors of Los Angeles, for example. Like, why are we not at Vernon, the like industrial sector of the city, organizing workers who are working like 11-hour days for $70 a day? Like that's a ripe territory that we can go into, and that's our shit. That is like within the capitalist world, but it's ripe for change. And I think that there is a bit of privilege in this society, in this world, about saying we should like leave where we are, because some people can't leave, and whether because of family or limitations of resources.
Also had a direct question, or was it a different question? You're next on stack.
I'm, I guess, much more centrist than you guys. I think we should take advantage of the fact that there's a global Occupy movement. I think we ought to not give up the ghost yet in terms of our capacity to reform the entire globe. I think that we are going to be given opportunities as things fall apart to be looked to for alternative ways of organizing if we have the capacity at this point to think through how we would suggest some kind of governance that contains the values that we're talking about here. I know that you mentioned gift economy. I don't know how, I guess that's an idea that's floating around. It says with the amount of interest that people can gain going down and down and down, nobody knows where to invest money anymore, and they're loaning out money at ridiculously low rates. Why don't we imagine moving into a totally different paradigm where wealth is not extracted and collected, but is released to do things that will make a positive difference in an ecologically balanced world. I think I've been hearing lots of ideas that feel very well worn, to put it in a neutral term, and that we need, and I think that this community is capable of coming up with things that are innovative and can move us elsewhere. We have elements here, particularly the climate crisis, that says we must attack corporations. That and that not with sickles and hammers, but intellectually. How do we say the market has produced the climate crisis? It is not something which is supportable any longer. More and more people are going to catch on to that, and there will be a moment where there's an opening for some ideas to come in. I think we ought to be preparing for that.
There's nobody else on staff.
Really quick, I don't see how under capitalism we're not going to be able to protect the environment. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm not sure what you mean by reform. Like,
I didn't say reform.
By people coming together and finding out an intellectual way to attack, that's already been done. Like that, what you just said. In America, there have been legislation to help stop these corporations from and they paid thousands and millions of dollars, and there still hasn't been a real way to mitigate this issue.
So, Eddie, you're trying to close down what I'm trying to open up? I'm saying let's look at new ideas, and you're downloading into old ideas. I think that's the basic issue right here. I see downloading into old paradigms that we know lead to the notion of small communities, isolated communities, because we have surrendered our power to change what appears to be this juggernaut. I don't think we should give up our capacity to confront the juggernaut.
No, I agree.
That's why we're here.
Me? Oh no, I just went like this. No, I just went like this.
I think by being local and independent, that's
louder.
By being
Stand up, please.
by being local and independent, I think we could still be interdependent with the world, where we're connected with everybody else and have a global movement that is acted out on a local level, because I think that's the more important thing. And I think, kind of adding to what you're saying about an autonomous zone, I don't know if I would use that term for it, but I think that's the only way to go. We need to start building communities from the ground up. I think they need to be environmentally sustainable. I think as soon as the capitalist economy goes away, it doesn't actually have to go away, it just has to go away in how we build technology. I think then we'll have technology that will be sustainable, because then everything will be resource efficient rather than cost efficient, which is the exact opposite, because you can only have profit if there's scarcity. You can't, you're not going to make money, having energy if it's geothermal, solar, tidal, and wind power, because that would be free energy for everybody on the earth, because there would be more than enough. But when you have petroleum, something that can be manipulated, even destroyed by the market just to cause profit, I think that's what's going to create a very horrible environmental conditions. And I think that's why we need anarchism, or you don't even have to use that word, but you need some social situation where technology would evolve rather than be put into a box that the state doesn't allow. Take hemp, for instance, that's just illegal. We shouldn't be making hemp plastic, right? No hemp feet for the roads, that's just a given, just because it's the law. So that's what I'm saying. We need none of that shit. We need nobody trying to control how technology will progress, and just that will eventually evolve to slow down environmental change.
What's your name?
No, you don't. You just.
Is it, how long do we, just to keep our time, how?
It's now 6:36.
Okay, so do we want to close stacks, or is everyone okay with closing stacks? I have 3 more people on stack. Yeah, I got James and Ellen.
There's someone.
Do you want to speak? Okay, and then so I'll put you on stack 2, and anybody else? We're closing stacks now.
Are these, is this the rest of the stack for like questions that
Just
people are
open
wanting to ask,
discussions
or
and
to further more discussion, or is it like people just talking?
How do people feel about? We've been here 2.5 hours, so I'm kind of okay with us closing on this topic and maybe exploring further discussion at Freedom School for our next event, the teach-in event. Okay, cool. Carol, James, Alex, and then.
Yeah, so I mean, I think to go back to the autonomous zones, I mean, I think that one of the things that, like, I agree, I think we should create autonomous zones, but I don't think that we should go off into these sort of more isolated areas. I mean, I think for a large extent, I mean, I would like to actually learn the history more about how a lot of these compounds failed in the 60s and why they didn't continue, because I think that is important to kind of learn from other people's mistakes. But also, I think that it is, I think it'd be great to create autonomous zones right here in urban settings. And I think, I think one of the things was like the Occupy LA, the original encampment, was an autonomous zone. Because it did, it was clearly was not something that the state thought was legal, but we created that autonomous zone and were able to defy a lot of different regulations and laws that the state put on us by being there. And I think we need to keep reproducing that. And clearly the state doesn't want to do this anymore, because if we go back to Solidarity Park instead of tents, they would, they would not be happy. And I think that's why, we're creating this other very temporary autonomous zone down in Wilshire with the 66 encampment. We are all the people that stay there on a regular basis. We are creating this community, as much as we have lots of problems and conflicts. And I think especially because this is the encampment is made up of some of the most marginalized people in our society, because a lot of these folks are the homeless youth. That's probably the majority of the makeup of that encampment is homeless youth and a lot of youth of color. And I think it's become a very difficult task to actually manage that autonomous zone. But I think it's a really great learning exercise, because if we want to do this on a large scale, we all got to learn how to actually communicate with each other and learn how to get along, because that's the only way that's going to work. And I think that's a huge part of what capitalism, especially I think in the United States, has sucked out of people, is the ability to cooperate with each other, because we are such an individualistic society, and people are told to live in a box, live by yourself, and not really cooperate with other people. And if you don't cooperate with people, you don't learn how to have dialogue, then yeah, you're not going to be very good at living in any sort of community or autonomous zone. So I think we're all learning how to do that. And I think that with the whole worldwide thing, is I'm hoping that I feel like this is happening everywhere. I'm hoping that this conversation is happening in all other parts of the United States, because of what Occupy happened. And I think it's happening, and it's been happening in a lot of places in Latin America. China, and I think China is another really important place. for the revolution to start, because they are sort of like this really big industrial core right now. And I think there is a lot of things happening down there that we don't hear about because, unfortunately, the media blackout. But there are people out there. The workers are organizing there because they're being super oppressed, and a lot of those people working in those factories are also they're migrants from rural China, mostly women. And if you've heard any of the sort of like things in the media about like workers committing suicide, I mean, I think that's just one of the many things that are happening in China right now with people rising up. And so I think that, and I believe in this sort of like, hive mind of the world that maybe is a little kind of a leap into faith. But I really, I guess maybe the revolution is a little bit leap into faith, that, maybe we can all synchronize and, and eventually we can all, it will happen all at the same time. But, I guess that's putting a lot of faith into humanity. Hey, but what else? What am I going to do?
Okay, we have James, Alex, and Hi.
And to speak to that, one of the things that really interests me around like economic systems, interpersonal systems that would fit within anarchy is the language of needs, or understanding each other based on needs, like an economic strategy that defines wealth as human needs satisfied would really help. A big part of that is skill sharing, and I hope that we can do more of that. And the other thing is, I feel like as far as the occupation in general goes, what we've been bumping into is the difficulty of the actual like practical application of horizontal community. And we've been taught to give up power to people that'll do more work, and people have been taught to step up and do lots of work and then feel like they own things. And the truth, I mean, like we have to begin to share everything, our minds, our hearts, the strategies that we go about living it in general. I'm getting a little scattered right now, but I just wanted to throw out there again, like my skills that like nonviolent communication is a horizontal process for language. And the other thing that I know of that I would really like to share with anybody that's interested is needs-based economic strategy. Specifically, the guy's name is Manfred Max Neef. He's Chilean. It's existed in lots of really urban settings. Like it was very successful, well, in basically like all of South America, even in the South and the States. And that's something that we can apply here. And what I mean, like, to define wealth as human needs met takes care of everything that we're looking for. There are no terrorists if everybody has air conditioning and a pool.
Another freedom school. Jump in. For sure.
Yeah, I wanted to address, I've heard this a few times, like, that, Julie, you said that, like, according to Marx, that a place like this, an advanced technical capitalist state, would have to go through revolution. And I understand that's what Marx said, but Marx also lived in Germany, which was an advanced technical industrial state. So I have a feeling like he was being a little bit nationally narcissistic and not seeing the rumblings from below, and how, for example, a country in that state really responds revolutionarily. Its working class responds to the actions of workers in its imperial holdings. So, like, example, Germany did go through a revolution, but Germany went through a revolution right when they lost all of their imperial holdings after World War I. So they basically lost their industrial base, and they became poorer, and that was a response of the revolution was a response to the impoverishment of a sort of like privileged class that was gaining capital from like extracting resources from another place. So I see a lot of a lot of parallels with us, saying that we are the center. We've got to be the center of revolution, but we depend on China, who is our industrial base. And if China did go up and revolt, it would not cost 99 cents anymore, and we would be very angry. And we would have no industrial base to like back that up. And, I mean, we'd be fucked. I mean, we'd be so fucked if there was just like massive blockades of exports from China and Southeast Asia. action that way. Like, I think our resources might be better. Like, we have the comms. We should, like, this is international. We should not talk about international crimes. But
Can I respond a little on that when you're done? I mean, just like real quick.
yeah, I think we should just act in solidarity with the working class of like China. But yeah.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, it might have been Lenin that really talked about advanced industrial and the fall of imperialism, really. And they never felt they were even close to that period. They felt the way they described that period, it looks like just now, you know, where you had two choices. Everything was moving fascist-wise because of the drop, you know, whatever, the collapse of the market, you know, and it would be the people rising up against that. Either that or there would be fascism, one or the other. And what we're seeing is, frankly, fascism, the beginning of fascism. So it would be one or the other, but it had to happen everywhere. So to me, the people rising up in China, which after all is a kind of has a strong capitalist aspect to it now, is really good. The people rising up here is really good. We're part of a global revolution. We should be supporting all of those people's movements around the world, and that's the strength that's going to be able to take it on.
Yeah, if we compare this system with a human body, from my experience, the anarchism is like the white blood cells of the body. We're just fighting against the 1%, which is the cancerous cells, I should call. That's what my experience is. And what I'm saying is that the theme at the Burning Man, if everyone knows or whoever knows, this year is there is a city. In the city, there are the red blood cells, and the white blood cells are going like outwards. So it's like we are right now. Yes, we are in the city, but it's like we are out of the system when we're here, out of the matrix, I should say. In order to like fix this system, I believe we need to get into the system, which is the government offices. Like we need occupiers in police departments, in Senate, in everywhere in the government. That's how we need to get back in there and fix this system.
Open up a can of worms.
Well, like, it's just like, you know, it's been kind of in history, those who tried to work within the system or like within the political apparatus as it stands have been corrupted by that power. I mean, unfortunately, I'm gonna be painted by the socialists now, but like, unfortunately, when, you know, people, like, socialism was a great idea, it was great, but they bought into the political apparatus as it stood, and like, it was like working within that same system, it led to a dictatorship. So like,
Andy, we still love you.
no, oh yeah, and as far as like supposed to go, people should read What is Anarchism by Alexander Berkman. Really good book.
The which diary?
Prison Diary.
Prison.
It's called Life of an Anarchist. Alexander Berkman. These are like all diaries that he wrote while he was in prison, including like.
Those are on your table?
No, this is an actual like book, maybe about 200 pages.
But we do have like a short pamphlet on what is anarchy. It's called Consider. It's got dog
A lot of great anarchist stuff is downloadable as PDFs too. Like most of it's free. You can just find it if you look up certain titles.
Yeah,
you
if
can
you
just
go to
download it.
scenelibrary.info.
But I need that mediated because otherwise it just looks like this enormous literature and we're having. I need
Zenelibrary.info, Kara?
Yeah, scenelibrary.info.
Maybe next week at Freedom School, somebody could bring a list of recommended readings or something.
Or post them on Facebook as well. Where like some of us could just post links on Facebook.
Another difference that I've heard said between like Marxist, socialist, communist, and more anarchist circles is that most anarchist theory is born out of practice and not specific to people, but practice and functionality, whereas the rest are kind of based on Marx, and it has more of that. There's a bit of a dogmatic way of understanding those ideas sometimes. I mean, I agree with like from each based on skill and give to based on need, but it can get mixed up.
Just a real quick response, and I understand what you're saying. I would argue that, or not argue, I would offer that some of what Marx got was from the Paris Commune. If you want to read something interesting, the Paris Commune is great to go ahead and read up about. And also Marx, while he did live in Germany, he also lived a lot in Britain because he was thrown out of Germany, and he was seeing what was going on in the industrial centers of Manchester and so on. So, but I understand what you're saying, and I think there's certainly room. I love the idea of learning from experience.
The anarchist Marx is basically Peter Kropotkin, if you want to write his name down. Peter Kropotkin.
Yes.
And Mikhail Bakunin.
Yes.
I get two great anarchist thinkers from around Mikhail Bakunin and Peter Kropotkin. They're both Russian. And you know the big division came between those two guys.
I know.
I'm done.
What's that? I can hear you. fancy camera. It's just like my old camera. It's just a new one. Well, if they just follow the law, they have nothing to worry about, right? Right?
Right? They're just standing in the park like Nazi Germans. They're going to start asking for everyone's papers in a few minutes.
After the way that man spoke to me, I would not bring those chairs back. That's just me.
There's obviously nothing more important going on in downtown LA.
Yeah. There's no real crime. Yeah.
There's no assaults or murders.
I would not. After the way that man spoke to me, I would not return those chairs. I will have nothing to do with it. Had he asked politely? Certainly. He just came and yelled at us, and he just completely stormed into our meeting, starts yelling at everyone about returning the chairs. That was completely inappropriate.
So who's on live stream today?
We got FRVF. They said, look how nervous I make them. And then Reality 8B. And then let's see who else is here. Jeannie D was here. Sharp Canines. Whim Girl. Just a bunch of beautiful people. Ask them their names and badge numbers. Ask them who they work for and who they protect. They don't make me feel safe.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Exactly why is your presence needed here, officers?
I think they're just enjoying the breeze.
Just an unfriendly stroll through the park.
This is taking a break from fighting crime, I guess. Hey now. It's cool, I got 24 hours with the battery, we're good. I'll charge up later, but more. It's all good. Ask them who pays their salary. I think that would be me. Oh my god, is that water balloon? Are water balloons legal? Oh shit. People having fun in the park, that cannot be legal. Oh my god, that cannot be legal. Be careful, you might wash the chalk off. I think he's quickly looking up the code for that. Yeah, I think they are here about the water balloons. I think they're watching the live stream. They heard about the planned water balloon event this afternoon, and that's why they're here. Because fun cannot be legal, especially in a public park. It's actually getting a little cooler now. I really wouldn't want to be wet right now. Look at how cute. Oh my gosh, I think some of the chalk got washed off for the water balloons. Oh my god. Just signing on. To see two cops standing with hands on belts, very strange looking, really, really odd. Yeah, there's a water balloon fight going on here. I think they're trying to wait for their superiors to look up the code for that. So, yeah, because water balloons cannot be legal. That's probably why they're here. Because they heard on live stream that we had planned a water balloon event. People having fun in the park cannot be legal.
I just walked away. I said, hey, I want nothing but peace here. And everyone's pretty much ganged up on me. And I had a few people coming back to me at the end of it saying, thank you for telling us your story. Because now we understand we're not exactly right, we're in the wrong. You know.
You're welcome, Eclipse. Chalk cops, well, there haven't been any chalk arrests since, well, as far as I know, I wasn't here yesterday. But the last chalk arrest, actually, there was 3 people were detained for chalking on August 9 in the morning. There was an arrest, I guess, for a warrant or something. How's it going? So there haven't been any chalk arrests in maybe 2 days, as far as I know. To my knowledge, anyway. But I just mostly film the cops just to let them know that we do expect them to at least follow the law. They need to leave because I didn't come here to stand here and film the cops, so they need to go. Where are you at, Eclipse? Yeah, someone was earlier saying that we don't recognize these cops. They. sit down until they come over here.
I was like, wow, I can't believe someone like in that position of somewhat power would even like resort.
How's it going?
I'm okay, but I don't want to read your life anymore.
Oh no, I just filmed the doggy, that's all.
Yeah, I guess what they told me about it.
Who told you?
Somebody was telling me that you didn't believe it, but you were already speaking something about it.
Right. Yeah, everyone was like, I mean, there were like a good handful of people that were like ganging up on me, like saying they were going to physically remove me from the spot. And I just kept saying, I said, this is public property. You cannot make me move from here.
That's how you went down.
I know, exactly. I was like, step back from the situation and see, I mean, you're the biggest hypocrite on earth right now, just talking like all the bullshit they were saying. I was like,
What did he give me, Blue? What did he give me?
Huh?
What did he bring me? It's Barrero.
Hey, mama.
Cool orbs. What are you talking about, orbs? What orbs are you talking about? Occupy Louisville.
really? Oh, we're not sleeping on the beach.
You have offices in Occupy Louisville?
Really? Anywhere in Venice?
Anywhere, I don't know where the spot, but you can get a ticket. And you follow you.
What state is that in?
You go early in the morning and stay over there and come back early.
Rato's gone, so I'm gonna eat it for him.
Okay. Give me a bite. I'm just kidding, I can eat that. I'm kidding, I can eat that.
It's what? Oh, really? Did you go? I actually just got back from Venice. Yeah. I went up there with the Skid Row people. They had a gospel concert. It was pretty cool. Yeah, they gave us some food.
It's been an hour and 31 minutes, so I'm gonna archive the video and come back.